What's going on, guys? It's Reviews TIJ. Welcome to a brand new video. Today it's time for a Toby Talks video. I haven't done one of these for, well, ages really. And today I'm going to be talking about a topic that you guys asked for. I thought I'd asked on Twitter for 5 retweets, and I did get 5 retweets. And what I'm going to be talking today is, has F1 become boring? Now, there's upsides and downsides to F1 definitely at the moment. And, you know, it's definitely a good sport, but a bad sport in different ways. But let's explain if F1 is boring or not. So at the moment, obviously, the championship, if you look at the championship, it is pretty much 2x2. With Felipe Nasr and Pastor Maldonado upsetting the balance. Apart from that, it's 2x2. Which means which just means really the teams are equally spread out, and it's generally quite boring in that way. But if you look at it in another way, you've got Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg fairly close together, and Sebastian Vettel waiting in the wings. Whereas in a season like 2013, perhaps, you had a season where Sebastian Vettel won everything after Belgium, and nobody was even near him after Belgium. At least with this year, you know, you've got Mercedes that are on top, but you've got somebody like Ferrari and even Williams. I don't think Williams are as quick as they were last year, which is a shame. But I think Ferrari are there to pounce if Mercedes make a mistake, as we've shown in Malaysia. But the point is, apart from Malaysia, Mercedes haven't really made any mistakes, apart from Monaco. But Nico Rosberg picked that up anyway. But Mercedes haven't had any reliability issues. Hamilton, Rosberg or Vettel haven't retired from one race yet this season, and the reliability has been absolutely phenomenal from Mercedes, especially, having every single driver finish the race. Let's see how that happens in Austria, tomorrow's race. But obviously, as I said already, Mercedes have pretty much won everything apart from Malaysia. They've been out on top all the season, and really after Malaysia we all thought, oh good, Ferrari are in this title charge as well. But to be quite honest, it's not true in one respect, because Ferrari aren't as quick as Mercedes and just can't challenge them at the moment, unfortunately. And then definitely another point is why F1 is boring, is because there's no battle at the front. But basically what happens in an F1 race now, it's a bit like F1 2014 or 13. You know, you've got the two Mercedes at the front, or Vettel, and they usually pull away from everybody else, and they have a bit of a squabble. But in cases like Canada last weekend, Hamilton just walked away with it. Rosberg didn't battle him any of the way through. Monaco was pretty much the same story. Catalonia was pretty much the same story. There's only been a few occasions where there's been squabbling at the front, which is obviously Malaysia this year. Well, there was a change. And Bahrain, a few occasions I can remember. Obviously last year in Bahrain they had a really good tussle. But apart from that, I can't think of many other occasions when there's been a good battle at the front. And really, other people are saying that they are just boring races. The race is just generally boring, and, well, it's just a boring race. It's not a joy to watch. It's not something that makes you feel happy, and something that you just thought, what's the point of wasting 4 hours, you know, watching the build-up, then watching the race, then watching the podium? What a waste of time. And that's how I feel sometimes, because the race has been that crap, to be honest. Well, and that links the battle at the front. You know, there's been no battle at the front. Hamilton gets pole, or Rosberg gets pole. Hamilton wins the race. Rosberg gets second, or vice versa. And that's boring. But you've got to remember back to 2013. At least we have a battle between two drivers now. In 2013, we had Sebastian Vettel who absolutely run away with everything, and Mark Webber couldn't even keep up. So really, you've got to be grateful for that. And obviously, there's a huge battle in the midfield. This is what people forget. Just because there's no battle at the front, I know it's hard not to judge it by the battle at the front, and I'm guilty of that sometimes. But really, sometimes it's the huge battle in the midfield that makes a race good. Like, I really noticed this after I've been consistently doing the predictors this year. I mean, the top 6 are pretty easy to predict, unless there's any reliability issues or crashes. That's the 2 Mercedes, the 2 Ferraris, and the 2 Williams. And then the battle for those 4 places then is really tough, because you've got it between Lotus, Red Bull, Sauber, Force India, McLaren. But really McLaren, okay, maybe not. And I think I've missed someone, so I apologise. I think I didn't say Toro Rosso, so Toro Rosso are in there as well. So that's really good, really, about this. From 6th down, you have a really good battle, and it all depends whether you're good on the track or not. Like this weekend in Austria, it's not a Red Bull track at all, so they're not going to be up there. So it's a battle between Sauber, Force India, Lotus, and who's the other team? I've completely forgot. But it's 3 or 4 teams that are battling for those 4 spots, and it's obviously 8 drivers battling for 4 spots. Well, that's not going to fit, is it? So when predicting a race, it is really interesting to see who am I going to put in them spots, because you could have a driver crash, You could just have a safety car that changes everything. And really, as you could see in Monaco, that changed everything in the lead. But obviously we've had 17 drivers score points this year, which says a lot. Which says actually that everybody apart from the two Marouches that aren't going to get points, sadly, the two Manners. And Fernando Alonso, who's had a lot of retirements, and Jenson Button get them points on one occasion in Monaco. But if you take that out, with Jenson Button, 16 drivers have scored points. It means every competitive team has scored points this year. Which means it's good. Like last year, we had Sauber not score any points. Sauber have already scored, what, 21 points this year? That's fantastic. Obviously, Caterham aren't here anymore. We've only got one team that haven't scored points. At the end of last year, we had two teams that hadn't scored points. But if you say that Marussia didn't score at Monaco, that's three teams, really. They didn't score on a consistent basis, if you want to call it that. But this year, as you can see on the standings, teams are pretty much scoring on a consistent basis. The two Red Bulls are doing well, the two Williams are doing well. Even though it's a 2x2, every team has scored points. Even Force India, who seems to be really struggling, have scored 21 points. Toro Rosso 15, Lotus 23, Sauber 21. So they're all quite level apart from McLaren, which makes a really good battle in the Constructors standings. So just bear with me a minute while I get that up. But the Constructors standings is really interesting because down from Red Bull, 5th is Lotus, and then 8th is Toro Rosso with 15 points. So between those four spots, there's only 8 points. You've got Lotus with 23, Sauber and Force India consecutively with 21, Toro Rosso with 15. And that means if one of those teams gets a big bundle of points, they shoot up to 5th in the championship. But they can have a double retirement next time round. And then all of a sudden, then somebody else is above them. And that's what I mean about the fantastic battle that nobody seems to realise and no one seems to care about because everyone loves the battle at the front. And I can totally understand that in one way, but not really, because unfortunately in Formula 1, it's not all about the lead. Not every team can battle for the lead. Not every team can battle for a win. You've got teams like Toro Rosso, teams like Force India. They wouldn't even battle for a win. They wouldn't even battle for a podium this year, people like Force India and Sauber. So, really, they're not going to be able to battle for those points. The thing is for them, if they get a good result, it's like a win. It's a battle at the end of the day, and unfortunately, the broadcasters don't show it enough. They show a couple of laps of it, and then they go to the front again. Who cares about the front if there's 30 seconds between them and everybody else? I'd much rather see the battles after that. And then you've got people like Martin Brundle who lick Max Verstappen's arse, to be quite frank. And I'm not being rude. I'm trying to put it as bluntly as possible. But he does. And we have a megastar on our hands. Well, how do you know that? He's only raced for 7 races, 8 tomorrow. Martin Brundle really annoys me, but that's really off the subject because we're not talking about Martin Brundle today. We're talking about has F1 become boring. Another thing that I want to talk about briefly is the lift and coast blah blah in Canada, where every 2 seconds on the radio, please lift and coast, please blah, blah, blah. Really, in F1, ever since the 80s, there's always been lift and coast in F1. So it's not like it hasn't existed, it's just the fact that it hasn't been broadcasted on the radio every 2 seconds. Lift and coast, lift and coast, lift and coast, lift and coast. Now, I know it's great to have the team radio messages, especially with people like Kimi Raikkonen, it's hilarious. But really, it's been good having team radio, but not having lift and coast every 2 seconds. I understand the teams need to do it, but I think that definitely Bernie and his team, the F1, the FIA, need to just cut down on the team radio broadcasting, because they don't need to broadcast every team radio saying lift and coast. So I don't think anybody cares about that. But moving on to the competitiveness, it's definitely more competitive this year, I'd say. I mean, Mercedes, you could argue that, I don't know, because you had Red Bull and Williams last year that were quite close, but this year it's just Ferrari. But however, Ferrari are quite much closer. Like, they're only about half a second off, perhaps, I'd say, on average. I could be completely wrong, but I'd say that's about what it's like on average. And with Sebastian Vettel, in all fairness, he's only 26 points behind Rosberg in the championship, which means he's only lost about 4 points on average to him every race. And Rosberg's finished every race, remember? And Hamilton's 43 points out of him. You just count the averages. I can't be asked to do maths today. But Kimi Raikkonen, well, we can talk about Kimi Raikkonen another day. But really, F1 has become more competitive this year. You had teams like Sauber that couldn't score points last year. People like Toro Rosso who weren't as competitive as they are this year. However, the downside of that is people like Red Bull who were flying last year, that already got a race win. They haven't even got a podium this year. Daniel Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat are really struggling. But competitiveness is certainly a good thing in F1. And I don't think F1 has become boring, even though I'm the biggest hypocrite ever because I keep moaning on Twitter saying the race is absolutely boring. But to be fair, they are. Sometimes they are absolutely boring. And if you look at it in one way, there's only been one race worth watching this year, and that was Malaysia, because there was a shock winner. Really, you've got to look at it in a way that it's going to happen the way it is. It's like in the Premier League. We all knew Chelsea was going to win the Premier League this year. You've just got to take it. It's like the Formula 1 season. I'm sorry, but Lewis Hamilton's already won the championship. Unless he has a massive reliability issues, he's already won the championship. He's the clear favourite to win it. And at the end of the day, you've just got to take that. But what you've got to take is the positive side of that. Is that other drivers can battle out, apart from the Mercedes. If you took the Mercedes out of the equation, it'd be have a great F1. And I was saying this morning that if Mercedes were that little bit slower, it would make F1 a lot more exciting. But of course, F1's a business. You've got to make your car as fast as possible. So really, that wouldn't work. But I don't think F1 is boring. I don't think F1 is boring whatsoever. Because you have battles in the midfield, and F1's good. Because if you didn't want to watch F1, you don't watch F1. You know, if F1 was that boring, you don't watch F1. So my advice is, stop moaning on Twitter, because to be quite honest, I don't get it. If you're watching F1 and saying it's boring, then you don't watch F1. If you watch a TV programme and it's boring, you don't watch the next episode. But for some reason, people say, oh, F1's boring, but they keep watching it. So, well, if you're saying it's boring, well, don't watch it then. That's my opinion at the moment on Formula 1, because it really annoys me when people are like that. I'm like that on the odd occasion, that's just because I'm really annoyed. But to be quite honest, I hate people all the time, oh, F1's boring, F1's boring. And to be fair, F1 was a lot more boring back in 2013 and like 2011. You forget Sebastian Vettel was absolutely dominant in those 2 years. And, you know, at least in the last 2 years, we've had a competitor. We've had Lewis Hamilton, who's been out on top, but we have Nico Rosberg, who's competitive. It's not like those years. Really, we had Mark Webber that wasn't as competitive, even though I love Mark Webber. I honestly think it's a lot better, and I don't know why people are moaning now all of a sudden that F1's boring. I can understand that the cars aren't as fast as anybody would like them to be, and they aren't. They're slow. Definitely are. And I'd love to go back to some of the older cars where they're really quick. And, you know, that's really a talk for another day, and the hybrids cost more money, and it just doesn't make any sense. But that's another video and another day. But in my opinion at the end of this is that F1 isn't boring at the moment. Like I say, look back at previous years. We've had a lot more terrible years than what we're having already. And to be quite honest, it's not like Hamilton's running away with it. Rosberg's only 17 points behind. Which means if Hamilton retires tomorrow or any other occasion and Rosberg takes the win, Rosberg could take the championship lead. And Vettel, obviously, as well. If both Mercedes collide tomorrow, I really hope they don't. But if they do, Vettel could be 1 point behind the two Mercedes if he wins the race. So there's a lot of probabilities and a lot of interesting things. And F1, I honestly think F1 is really interesting at the moment. Because you've got a lot of different probabilities. Like I thought Vettel was going to get pole today. That didn't happen, unfortunately. But I honestly believe F1's very interesting at the moment. I don't think it's boring at all. I think certainly qualifying and practice is very interesting. If you're a hardcore F1 fan and you watch the qualifying and your practice, you'll know. But if you only watch the race, you're not really seeing the full picture of F1, in my opinion. And really, that's all I want to say on the subject, because the video is going to about 13 minutes now. But let me know let me know, folks, in the... Yeah, we'll go with that. Let me know, folks, in the comments what you think of F1. Do you think F1's boring? And what would you do to change F1? What would you do? Would you bring back the V8s? Would you bring back Michelin tyres? Would you just make Mercedes slower and have a better battle? Or do you think F1's fine as it is and everyone should shut their faces? And I'm sorry, folks, that was a bit blunt, but that's true. Unfortunately, this is Toby Talks, but I have really enjoyed recording this for 15 minutes. Let me know if you want to see more, and let me know what to do next week. But I'll see you guys on the next video, and I really hope you've enjoyed. A like would be very appreciated, as well as a comment. Make sure I'd love to get to talking to you guys in the comments about F1. So if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done already for new F1 2015 content. And obviously more Toby Talk stuff about F1, football, and whatever you want, what you guys want me to talk about. I'll be Reviews to IJ. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm out.